wish that you would try one more time. Maybe defeat come as no surprise. I wish that you would try one more time. Sometimes it seems like you never will succeed. Everything gathered, there's so little that you need. Come now, somehow, it's been done before. Just open up the door, let your light shine. Might be thinking there's no place for you, but I wish that you would look one more time. Might be thinking it's more than you can do, but I wish that you would try one more time. Sometimes it seems every moment is a test. Nothing in the outside world can put your mind at rest. Come now, somehow, it's been done before. Just open up the door, let your light shine. Come now, somehow, it's been done before. Just open up the door, let your light shine. That was hot. Okay, thanks, JT.
Thank you.
All right, now get out of here, get out of the way.
Well, okay.
We have a special guest. It's not more special than you, man. All right, I'm gonna move this out of the way. Are we gonna try to get Kyle and Caroline and thing? Come on up.
They've already been.
Yeah, Caroline had a cameo there.
Oh yeah?
On the song.
Let your light shine. You did the Simba thing when you brought it up. I love it. All right, so we're doing something a little bit different this week, and I think it's it kind of catches everybody off guard, the little red light. But I also love that Chris Robinson came and in a collar. Yeah.
Somebody should
Did
represent.
you feel like you were going to show up and I was going to be in sweatpants?
No, I thought there was like a 30% chance one of you was going to be wearing a collar, and if somebody's going to wear a collar, I'm also going to. Worst case scenario, I was the only one who was, and that's great for me.
Yeah, that's good.
I knew
Also-
I knew better.
Oh, I gotta move this thing. Okay. So I didn't get dressed for church today. I got dressed for the internet. So this is Whitney Robinson. This is Chris Robinson. He is rector at Redeemer Episcopal Church in Biloxi, Mississippi on Potts Ferry Road. This is Father Stephen Kidd from St. Mark's, our sister church in Gulfport. It is on Cal and Lorraine. And this is Kyle Bennett, the Reverend Kyle Bennett from Trinity Episcopal Church in Pastor Cheyenne, Mississippi, right off Church Street. Is that right? Pretty good. The reason I said that was so that if you're looking for an Episcopal church, you have many to choose from, not the least of which is our 4 churches. We have been trying to do for a long time, with moments of great success and moments of less than satisfying results. Collaborative youth ministry between not just our 4 churches, but also inviting a bunch of other churches. And this year, 2023, we decided, the 4 of us particularly, gathered here to kind of swing for the fences. It came up one night at dinner that it was a small, slim chance and possibility that Whitney would take over our collaborative youth experiment, having had a new baby how many months ago? 5. So 10 or 5. 5 months ago, and so we called him, we asked, guest with, some pretty harsh, concrete expectations.
Which we know
about how the rest of us would behave and communicate. So do you want to say, I know it's weird to be on camera, but would you say just a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff?
So I am the missioner for children and youth formation for the whole Diocese of Mississippi, which is the entire state. And that means that at the diocesan level, I pull people together for youth events like happening in DIY, but also the adults who work with those young people so that they can connect and collaborate and learn from one another. And then I also support local congregations in their ministry and their work, as well as the convocations. And so it seems like a lot of our churches have there's been a shift happening before COVID in the way that we do formation, the way we have our life together as a congregation. And post-COVID, we're not really post it, but in this whatever time we're in, our lives are different and they're not the same, and the way that our formation and our ministry happens is different. And so I have ideas of things that might work, but I can't. It's hard to tell people, why don't y'all try doing this thing that I've never tried and I don't know if it's going to work. And so it seems like an opportunity, since I live down here, to kind of offer some help. When y'all needed some help, I was interested in offering some help to try to figure out how can that work together when you've got, especially down here, clergy with a lot of personality and a lot of energy. And so what are some of the practices that people need to know and keep in mind when we pull churches together? How can this be a life-giving thing back in together, but then also back into the churches? That's a huge thing for me, is I don't want this to become the church of EYC where the kids come to EYC to worship. I want this to be a place where they can go off and be with people like them, and then go back into their churches and be a part of that body of Christ too. And so it's kind of like, instead of, we can't always go to camp, we can't always do diocesan things every week, but maybe we could do convocational things as like a middle step kind of thing more frequently. So my hope is to see how EYCs can work, how churches can work together, sharing a youth group, and hopefully share all my work with other convocations. I'm already in conversation with 2 other ones that are kind of interested in this idea. So that's what I do for the diocese, and that's kind of why I have, stepped in here to try to insert myself into the situation. But I'm pretty excited. Just also haven't done EYC in a long time, and I've kind of missed it.
Yeah, I wonder too, you get a sandbox is the word that Kyle uses all the time, right? This gives us a place to play and experiment a little bit. So I have one question, and then we're going to let these guys talk for a minute because I have some questions for them too. But what about, do you think, we're certainly not alone in trying to figure out not only new ways to be the church, but new ways to have youth ministry, because after the pandemic, it was really, not after, but
now.
Yeah, whatever this thing is, but really challenging because we missed a chunk of kids.
Yeah.
My daughter being one of them, it happened at really the peak of our high school experience. And so we didn't lose her. She stayed involved in diocesan ministry, and what we did virtually was really effective. But as a local youth ministry, she didn't have what I had and what other kids had. Is that happening? I just imagine that's happening everywhere, right? Everybody's.
Yeah. And a lot of churches, and this isn't necessarily about the pandemic, may have 2 or 3 youth, and they'll say to me, we don't have any youth. But they do. They have those 2 or 3, and everyone matters. But it's not a collective group to create enough youth to make a youth group out of.
Yeah.
And so having to look at things differently of what does it mean to have young people involved in our congregations, but then also young people just need a place to go to be with people like them, their own age, as they're figuring out who they are, who God is, who our neighbor is, how does it all fit together. And so this is a very common thing, and this is why I think even in Jackson, where we have a lot of churches with a lot of youth, they still can't kind of get that momentum of people gathering. And so I think that maybe it's that we are looking at doing it differently, and I think that might help than like what we used to do.
Yeah, and strengthen numbers too, right? To pull it all together.
Right.
I think also economically it's really helpful because we're all sort of unsure, like what's next. To be down here, it's insurance. Other places, it's inflation or economy, like whatever it is that's affecting the church economically. This is a viable option for churches, right? That don't have, because we need to pay youth ministers, we need to pay them well, and it's hard to do that sometimes. Church budgets. All right, so question for y'all, and I won't belabor it. Really well done, Whitney. Really thoughtful, and insightful. So I think that like the four of us are a little bit unique, and that our relationships have depth and time, right? And we've known each other for a really long time, and our lives are interconnected. What would we say to people who don't have that in convocations, right? Like how important is it that the clergy, and you can chime in too, but how important is it that clergy have a good working relationship to pull off something like that?
Well, I wear a couple, like Whitney, I wear a couple of hats. In addition to being the rector of St. Mark's, I'm also dean of the Coast Convocation.
Oh, sure.
And so some of those conversations that I have with other deans is convocational work. I don't think we always think about it in this way, but it's essential to the health of the church. Because one of the real red flags for clergy, one of the real danger zones for clergy, one of the ways people burn out and they lose their way and they just quit, is loneliness. And so being able to put clergy in places by themselves where they don't have anybody else doing exactly the kind of, they may have a Presbyterian buddy or a Methodist friend or folks who are doing the same kind of work, sort of, but to be able to connect our convocations and missional work together and give the clergy opportunities to be a part of each other's lives, give the clergy an opportunity to be together, I think it's incredibly important. And so this is a way to do that. But I also am excited about this youth ministry project because one of the things I'm recognizing post-pandemic is that we have an opportunity to be creative. A lot of the stuff we were stuck in before the pandemic, because we'd always done it that way. Once we all had to go home for 2 years, we hadn't always done it that way. And so there's room now that it's kind of a unique moment in the church, a unique opportunity to say, okay, we have to start something. Do we necessarily want to start what we've always done? Or do we want to say, this is our moment to try something different, to step out and maybe be a little uncomfortable, maybe move into a collaborative ministry with other churches and begin to build those relationships of love and connection with other places. And I suspect, my hunch, is that all of our churches will be stronger for having deep relationships across our convocations, because one of the visions of this church is that we aren't individual outposts, but in fact we're all outposts of the same kingdom. And so part of what we do when we can visibly and financially and missionally show that in an embodied way, we do the church a favor. We help and strengthen the whole thing, which is one of the reasons I'm really happy we have Whitney, because it also is going to strengthen our bonds to the rest of the diocese, which is very easy for us to pretend everything north of I-10 doesn't exist. And so this sort of helps us resist that urge a little bit as well.
We have to be careful because Redeemer Episcopal Church Biloxi is in fact north of I-10, is it not?
No, it's south of I-10.
Is it south of I-10?
Every church except Diamond Head and Picayune in this convocation is south of I-10.
Okay. It's bizarre. It's way up I-10.
We're close to I-10.
We're close to I-10.
We're not much closer than
No, St. Mark's and Redeemer can both kind of, if you stand on top of the building, you can kind of see I-10.
Okay. I get it. My bad. Yeah, but I'm kidding. I think too, you were just talking about just convocational relationships. It's interesting too because when I grew up, and I think this might have been y'all's experiences too, the different churches in particular geographic areas became places for people to go when they were dissatisfied, right? So it was more like a baseball card trading thing, and I think it seems like a much better vision to see like this is the broad spectrum of worship experiences, outreach experiences, whatever, music experience, whatever.
And community dynamics.
Yeah.
There are little churches, there are big churches, there are various kinds.
I think there's a piece of our historical background that the Church of England in America started during a Congregationalist era of ministry and liturgy and sort of church style. And so there was a part of us where we have always been this sort of united church nationally in England. They got to America and sort of started these own little independent churches that had their own little philosophies and thoughts. And that got written in when we became our own national church. That got written into our Constitution and our canons. So, as rectors, each of us has huge amounts of authority over the use of our space and our building and control over our staffs and the vision of our places. And when you get to talk about collaborative ministry, part of what that asks you to do is give up some of that control.
It's a little bit of a threat.
Is to step away from that congregationalism, which, even though we don't talk about it, I think is written into kind of our DNA behind the scenes, and to step out and say, like, okay, we're actually going to be in this together. And if we're going to be in it together, it means I'm not 100% in control, in charge, in command. And that's tough both for priests and for vestries and for all sorts of things. And for youth ministers when they're looking around saying, who is actually my boss?
I work for you.
And so I think that becomes a place where when you're doing it, you're answering questions about, like, what would I say to folks who are thinking about doing it, is don't be afraid of the risks and the sort of unnatural feeling of it. Step out into that sort of...
It feels weird.
Yeah.
It feels a little scary, but like push through that.
And that's, it's real popular to talk about like the golden circle, the why. What's your why right now? And I think to keep that in mind, like, what is your why? Our why.
I'm gonna need a little bit of
The
more.
Simon Sinek thing about what's your why.
Who, what, where, why, not WXY.
I was thinking why. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your why?
TED Talk.
Sounds. I don't
Yeah,
know that.
and the why, I mean, the reason we all actually, or the purpose of what we're all doing is, at least in formation, is about passing our faith on. It's about raising up our young people to be disciples of the kingdom. And so we're all working towards the same goal, and so we can do so much more together than if we do it alone. And so I think that's another important thing.
So 2 things for Kyle. One, when you were talking about giving up authority, one thing Kyle has no problem with is giving up authority, because it just means you have to do less, which is really, I think, has some efficacy. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Kyle, because you've been doing youth ministry a lot longer than the rest of us. It was a career, well, much like it was for most of us, but digging way back into your late teens. Do you think that what we're doing now, should we succeed, do you think that will be something unique? Is it something that you've tried? Do you see what I'm saying?
It's evolutionary. It's
Okay.
where it's big. It's if y'all have already said it, it's where we are right now. It's fitting the model of where we are. I love it that there's no one high school or junior high that has a corner on the market. So these kids have to engage, much like the church, we have to come outside of our social structures to engage this youth ministry. And each of the kid grows within that, and because it's always going to be a give and take.
Yeah, well,
It's evolutionary.
Good.
Beautiful.
Evolutionary, revolutionary. I like all that. All right, so we're doing it. It starts this Sunday at 4 o'clock. Place will be a conversation as we move forward. We're only here really because St. Mark's has been the most central location, the easiest to get to, the most convenient. The space is awesome. But we're going to be here this Sunday and a couple of times because y'all
Scheduling things.
Yeah, busy churches, which is a good problem to have. But we're going to be here in the kitchen this Sunday at 4 o'clock. We're going to be making soup. I believe it's taco soup.
For Super Bowl.
For Super Bowl Sunday. We will be done in time. We won't be having dinner together, but we'll be done in time for folks to go and watch the Super Bowl, which reminds me we need to make plans for the Super Bowl.
And talk about the next thing too, though.
Is it will finish at 5:30, and we are gonna. The soup is going towards the church's freezers to use for pastoral care needs when somebody has a baby or has a death in their family, that sort of thing. The next event is, and I'm going to try very hard to communicate all of this to you because it won't probably be every single Sunday from 4 to 5:30 because there's just so many great things to do that don't always happen in that hour and a half. The next thing is not that next Sunday, but on Shrove Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday. It's Tuesday, February 21st from 5 30 to 7, and it's going to be at St. Mark's. We're going to have a Show Tuesday celebration with all of our EYC families. So bring your little brothers and sisters, your older brothers and sisters, your mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, friends. And it's kind of a unique celebration that isn't so common down here on the coast, but basically it's kind of that transitional evening from all of the season after Epiphany and the Mardi Gras festivities and the overindulgence and sugar and fat and all that stuff, using all that up one last time, one big last hurrah, because the next day is the beginning of Lent. And so we're going to have pancake races, we're going to eat lots of great food, we're going to bury the Alleluia, burn ashes, there'll be fires, so that's great, come on. Fire's always fun.
Burning palm fronds, so that so our ashes the next day can be warm.
Yeah. So in the first two sort of major events for this thing, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up, but for the first two major events, we're doing with our children pastoral care and liturgical shifts. That's awesome. I mean, that's not kick the can, right? It's not, I mean, none of those sardines are terrible, but it's just awesome that we're doing, like, because the chair of pastoral care committee here is coming on Sunday, and then to be able to talk about the shift from indulgent to penitential feelings. That's just awesome. It hadn't really dawned on me yet that we're kind of coming out of the gates really blazing. Any of you guys want to say anything else?
I'm excited. I think it's going to be, I'm really looking forward to seeing the ministry we're able to do together.
Yeah, right on. Right on. You want to say anything else?
My email is wrobinson@dioms.org. I'm not going to put my phone on it, but you can call me. But in case the link gets out in the ether. Anyway, I don't need more spam calls. Please contact me if you have any questions, and if you're not getting regular communication from your church or from me or whatever you want to, please let me know. I'm happy to.
Yeah, right on. Okay, that's good, right? Well done. What'd you say, Kim? It will all be in newsletters. Yeah, we're trying to get it out to everybody else. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. We're going to get JT back up. We're going to do one more camp song. Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Caroline. Just a little bit of a shift here. And this is sort of a new thing too, man. Us doing camp songs with JT. This might have to be a regular thing. I like it. All right. Hey, really, man. I'm really excited. It was really awesome. I hope that we'll continue to do this on Tuesday. So share it, please, with folk, because it's not just about what we're doing on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but about how God and His kingdom are active and working in the world around us, even north of I-10, right? Even north of I-10. All right, a blessing. May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine full upon your face, and may the rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, Peace. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.